You are listening to the Law Enforcement Pirate Radio Network. Radio Free Larry presiding.
You can run, but you can't hide.
Radio Free Larry.
All right, here we go again. I'm going to take this windscreen off and see if it sounds any better, because my dead cat might be muffling it, and it kind of sounds that way. Maybe I want to increase some of the, or at least change the equalizer settings, maybe increase some bass, I don't know. But for now, this is this without the dead cat, and that might be a little clearer, because the dead cat may have muffled it, but it may also be getting older or something and need to be washed or whatever it is. So God was able to communicate to me what it was God was very wroth at, but yet there's other things. But this was specifically in my life. Okay, I rented a car before, and I rented it for 2 weeks, and it sat most of the 2 weeks, especially I had that flu and was taking that medicine and all of that. Or I guess it wasn't upper respiratory infection and stomach infection and all those things. Actually, I think I got over the stomach infection, still had the ulcer, and then I had the upper respiratories when I got the car, or right after I got the car, something like that. Yes, it was right after I got the car. I became very, very ill. God had told me only to rent the car day by day, or at the most 2 days at a time, because the car is going to sit. You're going to end up wasting your money. So that was okay. God didn't get too upset at that. God let it go, as God is known to do. And then today, God told me this morning, but I couldn't hear God again, to rent a car for a day. And actually, there's another 2 times that God told me to rent a car. Now, I'll tell you why. If I get a Uber, it's only a few dollars short of renting a car for a day. And, of course, maybe a couple dollars for gas. So God said rent a car. That way you have the car for 24 hours, and you can go do things, and you don't have to worry about waiting for an Uber, and it is much better to have a car to go do things, but you can still live within the confines of riding your bicycle and losing the weight and all of that. And I've lost at least 10, 15 pounds already, so it's happening. It's just this illness is blocking me a bit. So God was very angry that God couldn't do that. But after all the judgments and all that was done, I and all the other people began to hear from God. Now, how does that work? You were theoretically hearing from God, but then you weren't hearing from God. The fact is that you curse and will things in a certain manner. And it works based upon how much anti-power you have. So, none or some or all of what you will happens in a given moment. So I'm sure it's a lot harder to block the judgments of God versus direction in my life, because what have I been doing? I've been giving you information from God on how to beat ISIS, how to beat all these issues that were in this nation, confronting the government, nations, other nations confronting those nations, but I couldn't get to my information. So again, the curses against my personal information, me getting forward in life, that's why you're supposed to get me somewhere in life. And if you look through the scriptures, that's what they tell people to do, not only in Judaism, Christianity. If you look in the other walks of faith, you're supposed to get your seers, your teachers, your real people somewhere because they're going to be assassinated more so than anyone else. So, those are real. They are going to continue. The destruction of Earth hasn't ceased. However, God has moved along. If you look into the sky in Collard, Texas, you'll notice that it's different than it was a few hours ago. Yes, it's getting darker, but God's presence is even available at night. When I was in New Jersey, I was going to a powwow, and it was a couple days before that I started seeing the presence of God in that form, in the Wonka Tonka form. And that was something that I saw at night. And the sky was like purple. I mean, the middle of the night. And it wasn't just like the sky. The cloud was purple. And it rained for like 2 days, and then it stopped, and it was clear for the powwow. And God had me take walks and things like that, and move healing and all sorts of things. And that's a long time ago. That's like 15 years ago. So, the end of Earth has been ordered, and for you, you might not understand it. The same thing as worshiping Satan and calling him Jesus. Everything that Jesus did on the earth has been owned by Satan on the earth one way or another, including the churches. Now, what you all do is you all look at denominational disagreements, which aren't supposed to be really looked at. And I know you say false teachers, but the reality is it's a little bit more in depth than what you all have understood. Now, I'm not getting my message from God right now on where I'm supposed to go shopping right now. Because I think I'm supposed to change where I get my supplies. But I'll keep driving this direction to see if that place that I think I'm supposed to go to shows up. And I have to go to a doctor. I have to get seen again because the ulcer flared up. And I was taking Prevacid and it was working, but I think I developed a cough on it. And that's one of the side effects. So I went to Prilosec that the doctor had prescribed for me initially, and it's not working. It worked for like 2 days and then stopped. So I'm not sure what that all means. And I went and I bought Gaviscon, and I didn't know it was high in sodium. Not that my blood pressure's all that high now, probably because of my weight loss. But don't know what to tell you. You're all blocking all sorts of things that we need to hear to effectuate our lives. You know, the entire coronavirus thing could have been averted if you would allow God's voice to operate. So again, you're causing the plagues, but you're losing God's protection from the plagues also. Because losing God's protection is the final stage in receiving plagues. Plagues are always out there. People are cursing people to plagues all day long. And even if it's one person, you don't control the plague. You don't control the illness that gets to the person. So if you ever wondered how flu season works, people get cursed to be ill, and then a flu crops up. And believe me, you could get a flu shot. We could be more direct, more exact and direct in our flu shots. Things would work. That's why flu shots don't work, because people are being cursed to get sick. And when you bring that type of Satanism into the world, that type of demonism, you don't control it. All sorts of people at that point, including the people that are cursing their neighbor to be ill, have that happen. So it's real. We're in the end times. We're in a little different posture right now. God is losing a lot of people to the deep state beast curses, and God is not happy with that. As I said, Roger Stone's life appears to have been deep stated. The whole thing while he was working for Dole, all of it. And that would fit. That was the era where I think they began in my life. I can't remember the date, but it's in the 90s, I think. And that's when they started destroying my life. So they also did Roger Stone at the time. No, the CIA is completely criminal, man. Just because they fix a problem that they allow to exist so you would need them, and then they could do all the other stuff, and then you wouldn't prosecute them because you're A.G. Barr and they're so important. It's gone. There's nothing left. It's all anarchy. If it hasn't gotten you, it doesn't mean that you can't be gotten. It's the same thing, and it's not God's protection that's blocking it necessarily. It's the same thing as a bunch of gazelles drinking water from the pond, and the cheetah comes to kill them. It only goes after one because it can only go after one at the time. But tomorrow's another day. But that's the deep state, and they work for Satan. Your CIA works for Satan. No matter what you see them doing, they work for Satan. Your FBI works for Satan, no matter what you see them doing. Is it no wonder Satan was transformed into an angel of light? Like I told you, President Trump doesn't, well, I guess he's starting to take on the form of an angel of light. But he's got some things that, he wishes weren't in his history. But that's normal. That's normal. They lied to you about how things are. They've murdered people, man. Y'all need to wake up. They've murdered people, and they've taught your state and locals to murder people. And laugh about it, and go get drunk and have an orgy over it. Get some great pleasure, sexual pleasure, after they do this to somebody. Whether it be sexualization, separatization, narcotization, causing alcoholism, murder, disability. That's your government, nothing else. The rest is a cover. They go off and investigate 10 cases honestly when they feel a little paranoid about what they're doing to people. And then you all go, oh, they're great investigators. Oh, so wonderful. Satan paid them so they can go back to the other work. And in fact, any of the cases they're working, you don't know if it was a tear-up Texas case. They could have caused somebody through CIA. Kroll's a criminal enterprise. Fusion GPS is a criminal enterprise. Through one of those type of entities, you don't know if they caused a person to offend. It's strong psychological warfare, I'll tell you that. It's strong curses. I've been reading it for decades. So that's where we really are. I mean, you might have a few nice people, but if you're Christian and you're in the government, you know exactly what I'm saying. You're not to be judged by the government, or people in the government should not be judged by your works. Remember, this is where the confusion is. Judgment Day is an individual thing, and it emanates from your heart. It doesn't emanate from your employment. It doesn't emanate from physical charity necessarily. I mean, there is an element of that could play in if your heart is correct. But yet we know that there are people in charity today to make themselves famous and make money. And the power they get from doing charity, they go out and curse people and cause a need for charity. And then they come along as the angel of light, the minister of light, the workers of light, but are Satan transformed based upon a contrick, a scam of spiritual and nowadays physical proportions. What the FBI is, what the CIA is, what DHS is in these deep state operations is what was used to kill Satan. That's what they said. But see, I went to say Jesus. And they're all will and stuff here. That means something to a seer. Because they call Satan, Jesus. They have a voice in their head they believe is Jesus, and it's Satan. Even when they cause a misspeak, I can read it. Of course, God reads it and tells me what it means. They call Satan Jesus. And maybe you'll think twice about cursing me, because I wouldn't have brought this up again unless you cursed me while I was speaking. And of course, they want me to be possessed by 1,000,000 demons that are now here in Tyler, Texas. They just brought, whoever they are, whoever they work for, just brought 1,000,000 demons, a legion of demons here in Tyler, Texas, to possess me. But what do you think they're doing right now? Possessing people to sexual perversion, possessing people to narcotics, alcohol. They don't control the demon, they just bring them. They get my victim, and that's all I care. And make me famous, like Director Ray and A.G. Barr. Give me that big beltway home. But they use that to kill Jesus. And of course, Satan caught. In Satan's world, Jesus is Satan. It's a reverse world. In the world of the Christians that worship Satan, it's a reverse world also. They've condemned Christ in their mind when Christ spoke to them and told them to stop. Jesus told me that Christians have cursed him when he's asked them to refrain from certain things. Of course, not knowing it's Jesus, but not caring if it was Jesus. That's the bottom line. So again, Texas was given over to Satanism today. It may be cleared up now. I don't know. I'd have to communicate with God on that. I see no signs. All right, God's in hell right now. Subway. Because I was looking for a sign as to where God was. And when I saw the word subway, I saw God descended into hell, and he's probably judging right now people that have passed currently and in the past, because I'm hearing the voice of God. So what happened today happened because of what people have been doing for an extended period of time. So there are people in hell right now hearing from God. God does what God wants. The bottom line, I was bringing this up earlier. The bottom line is God will tell you 50 things, and tomorrow will tell you another 50. And do you restrict God like that? Do you restrict God from that? Do you have a problem with God if God would do that? Well, that's why God wouldn't talk to you in the way that he speaks with me. Because I don't have a problem. I understand the plan. I was in the Army. They'll tell you 50 things today and tell you 50 different things tomorrow, and you still got to keep going. Well, praise God in all that you do. Praise God.
You are listening to the Law Enforcement Pirate Radio Network. Radio Free Larry presiding.
You can run, but you can't hide.
Radio Free Larry. You are listening to the Law Enforcement Pirate Radio Network. Radio